Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with economic news from around the world. Coming up today, China seeks to boost local products at home and abroad, and Kenya exports mobile technology to Eastern Europe. First, the headlines. Buenos Aires on Tuesday moved to pay bondholders domestically after a U.S. bank left it unable to do so. To ensure payment to bondholders who took part in the 2005 and 2010 debt swaps, Argentina designated the state Banco Nación Trust as a replacement for Bank of New York Mellon. President Cristina Fernandez in a televised address said the bondholders decided to take payment voluntarily. With this latest move, Argentina bypasses U.S. Judge Thomas Grisa's freeze on Argentina's earlier payment and avoids having to pay the so-called holdout investors who rejected the restructuring deal.
If Congress authorizes the Economy and Public Finance Ministry to adopt the necessary measures to remove the Bank of New York Mellon as the trustee agent, and it designate as its replacement Nación, all that without prejudice against the right that exists for the holders to designate a new trustee agent that guarantees the path of payment of services held, of restructured titles.
British lender Standard Chartered agreed to pay a $300 million penalty for failing to spot suspicious transactions. As part of a 2012 settlement with New York's top banking regulator, Standard Chartered promised to tighten its anti-money laundering controls. The London-based bank failed to flag potentially high-risk transactions, many of which originated in its branches in the United Arab Emirates and its Hong Kong subsidiary. Anti-money laundering compliance is vital to helping prevent terrorism and vile human rights abuses, Benjamin Lawsky, New York's Superintendent of Financial Services, said in a statement. The bank in 2012 paid $340 million to Lawsky's office to settle allegations it had improperly handled transactions for Iranian customers. BHP Billiton said it would spin off nickel, aluminum, and other properties into a new company in what would be one of the biggest asset sales in mining history. The move marks a strategic shift for BHP as it focuses on the four commodities that accounted for nearly all its earnings last year: coal, copper, iron ore, and petroleum. The Anglo-Australian company acquired many of the assets it plans to dislodge in BHP's 2001 merger with Britain's Billiton plc. The spin-off, meanwhile, would create a mid-sized metals player with a value of up to $12 billion that could become a prime takeover target. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, the world's largest, returned $31 billion in the second quarter as energy stocks and emerging markets led a rally amid turmoil in Iraq and Ukraine. The $880 billion fund's stock holdings returned 4%, its bonds 2%, and real estate returned 3%. Royal Dutch Shell, the investor's second largest stock holding, rallied as violence in Iraq and tensions between Russia and Ukraine pushed up oil prices. The Norwegian investor held 61.3% in stocks, 37.6% in bond holdings, and 1.2% in real estate. Beijing is fighting a two-front war as it seeks to pressure foreign manufacturers to lower their prices while boosting local production. But by demanding more competitive prices from foreign producers, it actually makes them more competitive with Chinese manufacturers. Joan Citruk and Daniel Roth have the details.
The price of a luxury vehicle such as Mercedes is too high for many in China. But beyond that, authorities in Jiangsu province in East China are accusing the German automaker of manipulating prices for maintenance, repair, and especially for parts. According to the New China News Agency, which broke the story, parts purchased separately can cost over 12 times more than a new vehicle.
So I think what we're seeing is, first of all, a communication to the market that over the years, foreign branded products have been priced very high, and informing the Chinese consumer that perhaps they should take another look at the prices and look for a more competitive price and demand a more competitive price from the manufacturer. So in the end, this is actually a good thing for the consumer.
Of course, if Mercedes is found to be guilty of price gouging, they will have to lower their prices, making them much more competitive against Chinese makers.
So by enforcing these laws, they're actually making the foreign branded products more affordable to the market, which in the end is going to make it harder for Chinese branded car makers to compete against them. So the unintended consequence is you're giving the consumers a better price, but you're also forcing the local car makers to compete with foreign branded products that are more affordable.
This is happening at the same time that China is fighting against monopolies, particularly foreign-owned ones, in the car industry as well as in the smartphone market. China Mobile, the primary operator in the country, is aiming to reduce prices by nearly 1/3 to subsidize the price of phones. It's a decision that should favor local manufacturers and make it harder for the American Apple and the South Korean Samsung, which will remain out of reach for many Chinese consumers. As Beijing is making it tougher for foreign companies to operate, Chinese exports are growing. In July, the trade surplus reached a record level with an increase of 14.5%. But by declaring war on foreign products, China could suffer consequences. Last month, foreign direct investment plunged by nearly 17% to the lowest level in the last 2 years.
We're joined now by Asia business expert Tal Reshev. Mr. Reshev, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
What is the basis of the allegation against these foreign companies for basically having overpriced products? What does Beijing stand to gain from it?
Well, their interest can be for one of two directions. First direction is to try to put obstacles on the ways of foreign manufacturers because they want to promote the local manufacturing in all the areas. As we could see, it's not only car manufacturers, it's also mobile manufacturers. And we've seen earlier also with GlaxoSmithKline, with pharmaceutical companies. So China is promoting with their abilities the production by Chinese local companies. And this is one of the means that they can use, of course, because it's a kind of a regime that combines all the abilities. They don't have a separation of authorities. But I think also that there's something a bit strange in this issue, because whom are they attacking? They're attacking Audi, they're attacking Mercedes. There is no Chinese alternative to Mercedes, no Chinese manufacturer. So maybe this is a result of a kind of a struggle inside of the Communist Party, with somebody trying to see that he works for the people, not necessarily for the Chinese car manufacturers, but for his own career within the party.
Interesting. What is it within the judicial and environmental, in the judicial environment, in economic environment, that allows these officials essentially to attack these foreign companies? How is it that they're able to do that so easily?
Yeah. Well, this comes from the Chinese area, which is so different than ours in the OECD, because in China, all the abilities, as I started saying, are in the hands of the party. It means that whenever they want, they can use the legislation, the courts, the economical power, the political power, etc., for their means, and they have the 5 years plan that channels all those powers in the direction that the regime has decided. Now, they leave many things obscure, many things under gray, not black, not white. It is half forbidden, and whenever they want, they can attack whoever they want there. Whenever they decide, they do not do it.
Right.
One of the things that we could see lately, we have a campaign of the party against corruption, and many analysts have noted that it serves the ambitions of Xi Jinping, the president. What does it mean? It means that there are hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of corrupt officials, and they choose whom to attack. So, knowing that you have all ranks of people under corruption, you decide who to attack, and you choose those people out of the lists that come from the head of the party.
Gotcha. Now, last question. What should a company do to avoid this situation, to avoid such an attack?
Well, the company should, first of all, know exactly what are the limits. There is the legislation. They understand perfectly that they are in the gray zone. They have to follow the regime, the party, the leaders, not only the written laws, not only the written legislation, but also the tendencies, the plans, the publication of declarations, in order to know whenever the wind is changing.
Okay, well, Tal Reshev, Asia business expert, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Africans have long used technology developed abroad, but now a Kenyan cash transfer network, which bypasses banks, is being adopted in Europe. The M-Pesa mobile money transfer system, which allows clients to send cash with their telephones, has transformed how business is done in East Africa and is now spreading to Romania. More in this report.
Going cashless is easier in Nairobi than New York, thanks to Kenya's leading mobile money system, M-Pesa. With M-Pesa, M for mobile, and Pesa is Swahili for money. All you need to pay your electricity bill to groceries, taxi fares and school fees is a phone. After paying money to an M-Pesa agent who credits the cash to your phone, you can transfer money to a friend, pay bills, or withdraw your cash back out.
On a normal day, like here, personally, I get about 10 customers who pay via M-Pesa, and that's just me. So if you think about all the businesses in Nairobi, considering there are about 5,000 outlets just in town itself of M-Pesa. And these people make money every day because they don't shut down.
Launched in 2007 by Safaricom, almost half the country's $44 billion economy passes through the system. It has since been extended to Tanzania, Egypt, India, and Mozambique. Now, Vodafone is bringing M-Pesa to Europe for the first time, hoping to win over an estimated 7 million Romanians. Mici Karstoiu, an engineer from Bucharest, has just activated his M-Pesa account. Until now, he's been using internet home banking services to pay his bills. But once he heard about M-Pesa, he came to sign up.
I save time for sure. Plus, I think the transaction fees are smaller. But most importantly, I save time. Everyone has a mobile phone, and it's very simple to send and receive money or make payments.
In part, M-Pesa succeeded in Kenya by meeting the needs of the unbanked. Romania was chosen as the European launch point for the service because many here still rely primarily on cash. But moving beyond emerging markets means adapting to fresh challenges. For example, they'll have to face different regulatory environments and consumers who already have access to a wide range of financial services. If it succeeds here, though, Romania may be a first step towards launching elsewhere in Europe.
From East Africa to Eastern Europe, I mean, that's quite phenomenal, when you think about it. And I think this is something that the rest of the world can look at to say that there are ideas that can emanate out of the developing world and take it to the developed world.
How Europe will embrace Kenya's pioneering export is still far from certain. But already, M-Pesa has brought Swahili into the language of global finance.
And now for a look at some other reports that we did not want you to miss in Media Watch with Daniel Roth. Daniel Roth, thanks for joining us.
How's it going?
Good. So I understand you're taking us to Ferguson today.
Yeah, so there's this really important piece in The Guardian talking about the economic angle when you're looking at Ferguson. Now, most people look at it and see a race issue, white and black in America. This is a big deal, and it's certainly part of the issue. Some people look at it and see the militarization of police as the predominant issue here. But there's also an economic angle, and the truth is that when you look at race in America, you also have to look at class, because black people in America are disproportionately affected by poverty. When you look at the unemployment rate, 7% of white people are unemployed, 14% when you look at the black population.
Right, double the amount.
Double the amount. When you here's a stat that came out recently: a white family turns every $1 of income into $5 of wealth over time.
Wow.
For a black family, that's a $1 turns into 69 cents. So you're looking at major economic challenges, an uphill battle that the African-American population in America is facing. That's really, what this piece is saying, really at the core. It doesn't displace race as an issue,
right,
but it connects to race as an
Obviously,
issue.
it's directly related. Does it say anything about Barack Obama being in any way involved in resolving the issue?
Well, so there's a lot of media surrounding that. And so far, Barack Obama, when you look at his reactions, it's been mostly the same as any other president.
Right.
There have been historical examples of outpours of street violence, of protests, of police violence, and Barack Obama's been acting essentially as any other president has in history. So actually, his background hasn't much affected the way he's dealing with it. Perhaps privately it has, but publicly, so far they've done the same thing they've been doing, calling in the National Guard, sort of trying to meet the pressure coming up, again, this pressure of race and class oppression that is being met with police force, and so the federal government has sent in the National Guard, and a lot of the commenters are saying that there's really not a great enough understanding from either local, state, or federal government of the real race-class issues at the core.
Dan Roth, thanks for joining us, giving us more information on the race issues in America. That's a wrap for us at The Economy Magazine, your daily socioeconomic and financial report. It's on 24 News. I'm Benjamin Chonglafaris. Follow me on Twitter at Chonglafaris and send us your comments via the feedback link. Thank you.